Hello, I'm the Greek Geek because I'm 50% Greek and 100% a geek. And with Terminator Dark Fate coming out later this month, or at the start of next month, I forget which, I figured why not review all of the Terminator movies before that comes out. Let's see if I can actually stick to that promise. A sophisticated infiltration robot that looks like a bodybuilder and has a very heavy Austrian accent is sent back in time to try and kill a woman called Sarah Connor. Meanwhile, a man named Kyle Reese is trying to save her from said robot, whilst at the same time trying to score with her.
In the 21st century, a weapon will be invented like no other. This weapon will be powerful, versatile, and indestructible.
As you all know, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays the T-800 series robot, the Terminator in the movie, and he is just an unstoppable killing machine. So many people try to stop him, guns don't do anything against him, and everyone dies in the process. I never understood why Skynet would design an infiltration robot to look like a massive bodybuilder with an Austrian accent. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't really blend in with the rest of society, especially if it's in the post-apocalyptic world, and even in the real world, kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. But I guess no one can really do anything against it anyway. So Arnold only has a few lines in this movie, which is not a bad thing considering his acting abilities at the time.
I have not eaten for days.
And who says you will? Who are you?
And his lines are meant to be like just kind of bland and not full of emotion anyway, so he really fits the role. Linda Hamilton plays Sarah Connor, and I like how she's just this regular girl who's just of no significance really, and then she finds out that she is potentially like one of the most important people in history because she gives birth to John Connor, who is the leader of the resistance that fights against Skynet in the future. And I like the contrast of like the character that she is in this movie to what she becomes later on in the second movie. We see that she's just like a very timid and kind of not shy, but not really assertive girl. And we see the badass that she becomes in Terminator 2. Kyle Reese is played by Michael Biehn. I swear there's every review, there's someone's name I don't know how to pronounce properly. Can pronounce Schwarzenegger properly. Can't pronounce Michael Biehn. I'm sorry. So he plays Kyle Reese, and I noticed in this movie that he works as primarily the exposition dumper. He is most of the time explaining to Sarah Connor why she's so important, why he was sent back to the past, why the Terminator's after her, and how the war started between humanity and Skynet in the future. He doesn't really talk about anything else other than that, I noticed, but it kind of works because Sarah Connor, she knows nothing about any of this, so he's explaining it to her as a person that doesn't know any of this. So it doesn't come across as like forced exposition or anything like that. It kind of flows naturally.
This weapon will be called the Terminator.
You're dead, honey.
You really get a sense of how the Terminator is just so unstoppable. Like, regular arms fire don't seem to do much against him other than just tear away at the artificial flesh that's on him. And no one can do anything to stop it. Even bombs don't stop him. Things blowing up doesn't stop it at all. It just won't stop. Police just get mowed down by the Terminator. All that anyone can do is run away. Also, the action scenes that take place in the future all look very, very cool as well, with the laser beams flying around and the Terminators and the humans fighting against Skynet in the future. You do realize like kind of how hopeless it is because they're outnumbered and the machines have these massive big tanks and flying like helicopters or whatever they have that just fly around destroying absolutely everybody. So the action in this movie is top-notch and very fun. So those of you that know me, I do love me some practical special effects. They make use of some very good practical effects, like a lot of the Terminator shots of the T-800's like exoskeleton in the future scenes, and in, well, I'm not going to say nowadays because it happened in 1981 or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it happened in. They use like actual models for the Terminator and it looks really good, really authentic. And you can kind of tell in the future with the ships flying around that they're just models that are flying around. They're not CGI or anything like that. They do look pretty good, not as bad as ones look in earlier Godzilla movies, but you can kind of notice, especially nowadays, it doesn't hold up as well. But they do some good special effects with the Terminator cutting into his arm. That looks really gross and makes me uncomfortable. But they don't do it as well when you can tell there's obviously a puppet of Arnold Schwarzenegger's head, because his head is like weird and obviously looks fake when he's cutting into his eye to get rid of the eyeball to reveal the actual Terminator underneath. That looks pretty fake. But there's also stop motion in this movie. It's only like in one scene of when I think the Terminator was injured, like its leg was damaged and it was like hobbling along, and they used stop motion. So this was like the awkward transition stage between like CGI effects and stop motion. Like some movies still used it sometimes, but back then they were moving into more CGI-based special effects. And that Arnold Schwarzenegger puppet head will forever haunt my dreams.
It can't be reasoned with. It can't be bargained with. It will feel no pity.
The music is composed by Brad Fiedel. It is very iconic. You've got the awesome soundtrack and that iconic theme of the da-da-da-da-da. Ugh, it sounds almost different in this movie compared to the second one. I think they might have changed it up a bit. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments below. But it does sound a bit different, but that might just be me. I'm going to be watching Terminator 2 soon, so I guess I'll find out.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator.
So in conclusion, watch this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, what are you doing? Terminator 2 is arguably the better movie, and I think it's a better movie. But you really need to watch this one too to get the full scope of the story and all that. And it is a very, very good sci-fi action movie, and I would definitely recommend you check it out. So if you're interested in more movie reviews like this one in the science fiction genre, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. I cover these kind of movies all the time, and if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please consider subscribing. And as always, thank you for listening to me ramble on about a movie for a few minutes. I do appreciate it. Thank you again, and I'll catch you next time.